The year was 2012. The Harry Potter series was coming down from its grand finale movie the previous year, the Xbox 360 was nearing the end of its life with the Xbox One around the corner, and the Kinect was cementing its place as a dud peripheral that nobody liked. Launching Star Wars Kinect and Dragon Ball Z Kinect the same year will do that for you. Out comes a Harry Potter Kinect game to miss two boats at the same time, so overshadowed by higher profile Kinect disasters that I had to check if it was real when viewers asked me to cover it. Now, I know that Harry Potter is a little controversial these days because of the author J.K. Rowling's viewpoints, but don't you worry, I can personally guarantee that there are absolutely zero statements in this video that anybody in a sane world should ever consider to be political. The game goes the route of recreating the movies, opening with a shot and narration of Harry getting his letter to Hogwarts in the first movie that's grainy as all hell. Weird, all the movies were on DVD at this point. You could have just used movie clips. You own the damned movies. Movie clips even play later, covered up by instructions to where you can barely see them. There are two gameplay modes, movie mode and custom mode. They are literally the same game, only custom mode changes your sometimes visible player character into a custom avatar. And this is actually a pretty cool feature. The Kinect uses its built-in camera to actually take your photo and then it pastes the picture of your face right onto...
Look at this! Look! 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 What the fuck is this?
It pastes your picture onto a horrifying hell beast forsaken by God, the devil, and every law of nature. Like, I don't scream at horror movies, but every time the game tries mapping my face to a game character, something primal makes me cry out in fear. It's like if the Uncanny Valley took a shit. It doesn't help that my Kinect is at the bottom of my TV, and any sane person has lights above the console to light the room, so all my pictures are in shadow to where it looks like my character's face got caved in. And for the love of crap, don't smile, or your exposed teeth will make you look like a Cenobite. I'd ask who the hell looked at this and said that it was okay, but if AI's taught us anything, it's that tech bros don't have working eyes. And the worst part, I eventually used my cell phone light to take an almost passable picture and make this avatar, but you can't pick the skin tone of your character. The game tries to guess at it from the picture, and the Kinect made me a black kid, and I can't change it until after I finish movie 1. Great. Anyway, you go to Ollivander's and get a wand by waving your hand at the screen a few times, after sitting crap loads of the old fart just talking at you. And then you get to the sorting hat to get put into one of Hogwarts' 4 houses. You're supposed to be able to call out a house name and get sorted there, cause the Kinect has a built-in microphone. But Miles and I tried this, and he picked Slytherin. I played for this review and screamed Ravenclaw at the damn thing about 4 times, and still got Slytherin. Guess they stopped believing that second book's message about how important it is that everyone's choices define who they are, huh? And the contrast between the specially molded and rendered character models and your avatar's horrifying mockery of flesh will never stop being funny. Alright, on to the gameplay. Our first level is Potions class, with a guy doing a frankly hilarious Alan Rickman impression.
You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making. If you aren't as big a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach.
And for Potions class, we move your hand in a circle until the color matches the corner, hold your hand over the ingredient in the corner, move your hand in a circle to mash ingredients, and hold your hand over the pot until the color matches the corner. This is barely a game. Next up is Charms class, where you learn the levitation spell by waving your hand 3 times at the screen. And that's the level. When they said that these were the stages for first years, I didn't think they meant the first years of life. What's funny is, you're supposed to be able to change spells by just calling out the name for the Kinect's microphone, but even the game itself doesn't expect that to work, so every spell also has a gesture you can do to equip it. Next they cut to the troll battle in the bathroom, where you have to jump, duck, and sidestep attacks before hucking things at the troll's head. Okay, you're getting closer to being a real game, but you're still lagging behind Wipeout for actual input required of the character. And don't you love how you have to huck things at the troll's head with absolutely zero aiming cursor to tell what in the hell you're doing? Next we get to Harry's first Quidditch match, where, for reasons that will forever baffle me, you don't actually play as Harry, but instead the Slytherin Seeker beating the crap out of Harry! Yeah, the Quidditch minigame is hilarious. You lean back and forth to stay in the slipstream of the Golden Snitch, and if you come up next to Harry racing against you, you punch him in the face! Harry's gonna have a few more scars by the time we're done here! What's funny is there's a two-player versus version of the minigame where you and a friend stand side by side and repeatedly punch to either side. That setup seems unwise. Then we get to the showdown in the Sorcerer's Stone Chamber, where you have to prevent Voldemort from getting the stone and becoming immortal. Just one tiny little problem. This is the first that Voldemort or the Sorcerer's Stone have been so much as mentioned in the entire game. Seriously, the game's retelling of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone doesn't actually mention a single word about his dead parents, why he's famous, or even that he's famous, his rivalry with Draco Malfoy, how he meets either of his friends. It doesn't even mention Hagrid or Dumbledore. It doesn't explain any of the backstory that a bad guy named Voldemort nearly took over the world. It skips over the mystery that someone tried to kill Harry his first Quidditch game, although I guess I took over that job myself. And there's zero foreshadowing regarding Fluffy or the Sorcerer's Stone. In fact, Fluffy isn't in the game at all. The Sorcerer's Stone Chamber level only adapts the flying keys and the showdown with Quirrell. No Fluffy, no Devil Snare, and no Wizard's Chest. The game only cares about recreating a few memorable scenes from the movies, divorced from almost all context, and with actual stories of any of the books or movies completely jettisoned. There were some people who had never read or watched Harry Potter that had difficulty following the Lego games that had no dialogue. That almost seems quaint against a game that just doesn't tell the story at all. But more on that later. First, we have to play Homeless Man's Fruit Ninja, smacking keys out of the air. Or rather, just kind of bumping keys out of the air. And we get to our first encounter with Lord Voldemort. Oh dear Lord, child, your haunting visage makes it clear that my own fate is naught but the sweet mercy of a truly vengeful god. Quirrell jumps on you, and you have to reach out to grab his face to fight him off. Okay, why isn't this working? I swear I'm holding my hands out, thrusting my hands out, putting them down and back up again so the game can tell the difference. Nothing is getting the game to work correctly. This isn't even a game. You just hold out your hands and win, and that remedial action still isn't working. What the hell? I tried everything. I even draped a dark blanket over my body so the Kinect could easily differentiate my pale arms poking out of it. Nothing worked! I'm just stuck here with Quirrell making uncomfortable, heavy eye contact while choking me until I fail the level and have to start over. If this is ASMR, I am not a fan. Turns out this wasn't the Kinect futzing up. Quirrell is supposed to be moving, and your hands are supposed to be visible by default. I shut the game off and unplugged the Kinect, and I was never able to replicate this bug again, even on the same save file. But now I've finally finished year 1, and I can go change my avatar on the main menu, including changing my avatar's gender at will, and still having all the same rights as before the transition. Funny how that works! Oh, and from the menu you can also pet Dumbledore's pet phoenix, Fox. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Who's a... Oh, crap! I didn't do it! Maybe my face is messed up because I have the Ghost Rider's penance stare. Alright, the Chamber of Secrets levels open with you having to smack around pixies with the books while avoiding the ones holding bombs. Okay, now we have turned into Homeless Man's Fruit Ninja. Except the book you're given to swing around is so huge that avoiding the bombs is virtually impossible. Next is Herbology class, where you have to tend to a bunch of screaming baby mandrakes. You pick them up and repot them when they're whining, raise your right hand for water when they're dry, and raise your left hand for medicine if they get slugs. And the sad thing is, this is probably the most depth that you're going to find in the entire game, just sheerly down to the fact that you have to do more than one thing at a time. Then comes the Dueling Club, where you fight Draco Malfoy, the first and second to last time that the dude will be mentioned the entire game. This is where you get introduced to the game's combat, and it's kinda crap. You use your dominant hand to aim spells and wave your hand to shoot them, except you have to wave the hand that's being used to aim. So you just have to hope that the Kinect doesn't change your aim every time that you shoot. The frustrating thing is that both you and your opponent can cast a shield by raising both your arms at the same time, which is fine, except the shield reflects projectiles back at you at a moment's notice, and you can't raise your own shield until any firing animation wraps up. Every duel basically turns into a frustrating guessing game of trying to figure out when attacks will get through and when you need to block. And again, this is the primary combat system that will stick around the entire rest of the game. And then we have the Chamber of Secrets, where you just dodge the basilisk a whole lot and wave a sword at it half-hastily. And if you're not familiar with the books or movies, you also wonder who the hell is Tom Riddle, who is Ginny, what is this magic diary thing, where'd the giant snake come from, and how half-assed is this game anyway? The game's adaptation of Prisoner of Azkaban begins with you saving Ron from the Whomping Willow, and wait, what? Okay, now the game's abridging has just gotten ridiculous. We completely skipped over to the third act of the movie. We only have 3 activities from the third movie. The Whomping Willow, chasing down Pettigrew in the Shaking Shack, and the Dementor battle. This isn't even reenacting the highlights or memorable scenes of the movies. They've skipped down to only doing the climax. I'd rip into all the major sequences of books 2 and 3 that they just passed over, but Miles kinda called dibs on that because it bugged the hell out of him.
The game has nothing for Dobby coming into Harry's house, which could have made for a fun little stealth minigame. Forgets the incredibly funny sequence, flying the invisible car to try and still reach Hogwarts on time. Also forgets the iconic scene where Harry and Ron meet the giant spider known as Aragog. Skips over the Quidditch match after his hand gets broken by a bludger and he falls off his broom. Does nothing to really address Tom Riddle's diary. This could have made for a dirt simple but fun investigative minigame. Forgets the hilarious night bus ride to the Leaky Cauldron. The Kinect is no stranger to having racing and dodging type mechanics. The first encounter with the Dementor on the train, this segment could have given some kind of horror vibes like in the movie. You could also have had a short training segment to cast the spell Expecto Patronum. I do not know how you adapt The Prisoner of Azkaban and forget to include Buckbeak, the Quidditch match where Harry has to fly through lightning running into Dementors. Harry sneaking around Hogwarts using the Marauders map. This screams easy to implement stealth minigame. I just had to say something about this game's butchering of the plot of the Harry Potter movies because I am a huge fan of the films, Fantastic Beasts notwithstanding.
Anyway, the Whomping Willow is just jumping, ducking, and dodging hits, which you've already done. The Shrieking Shack is actually kind of a neat idea because you have to sweep side to side playing hide and seek with a rat, and the turning is actually really responsive with you leaning around. But then the Dementor battle regresses back to barely even being a game. You just wave your hand in front of really slow-moving enemies, and then lean to bump into enemies that are spelled out on a radar. We're not even halfway through the game, and not only are they jettisoning most of the movies, they're repeating game mechanics like crazy. Whatever, up to year 4 and... what? The first year 4 minigame is the second Triwizard Tournament event. Ignoring for a moment that they skipped over the Quidditch World Cup and Miles was hoping for a dancing minigame with Hermione, I'd think that even people who've never engaged with the franchise are going to look at this and go, wait, why are we starting at a second event? Oh, the recap says that Harry fought a dragon. That probably would have been awesome to play! Cripes. So you shoot and dodge a bunch of octopus monsters, and for some reason the game has stopped reading the regular gestures to shoot your wand. I wave my hand vertically, like every other game has had you do, and it registers maybe a fifth of my shots. And the last phase, you have to shoot free 2 hostages while fending off octopuses. A 20% success rate is not cutting it. Also, can someone explain to me why your health is represented as oxygen when the whole idea of this segment is that Harry can breathe underwater? Well, in a random fit that somehow worked, I figured out this is the one and only level on the entire disc that is programmed to only read horizontal hand waves to fire your wand. I start swinging back and forth like I'm trying to slap the ugly off of my avatar, and Harry's firing like he's Rambo. And yes, I know the octopus things are called grindylows. Who paused the video to tell me that? So then they skip to the maze, which is just more dodging. Again. And then you duel Voldemort, which is the same dueling mechanic. Again. He fights pretty much exactly the same as Malfoy did. And by the way, not only does the game not mention at all that Robert Pattinson carks it at the end of movie 4, but the introduction to this level is worded like you just casually ran into Voldemort in this graveyard, and not that this is his big major resurrection and turning point for the series. Like, ignoring the story is one thing, getting it wrong is another. Order of the Phoenix's levels are the Room of Requirement, the Ministry of Magic, and another duel with Voldemort. It's a copy-paste shooting gallery, a copy-paste dueling stage, and another copy-paste dueling stage. The Half-Blood Prince levels are a Quidditch goalie stage, a zombie shooting stage, and a fight where you catch Harry's spells to reflect them back. It's basically 2 copy-pastes of the key level, and a copy-paste of the Dementor fight. If every level is just going to be a rehash anyway, why are there so damn few stages? I finished 2 whole movies in less than half an hour. And yes, they do completely skip over the major deaths at the end of each movie. Kinda makes you wonder why they even bothered if you're going to scrap all the actual important scenes. And by the way, there's only supposed to be one quaffle, the big red scoring ball, in a game of Quidditch. It's not a shooting gallery like this. Although I guess I can understand the other students throwing as much stuff at this face as possible to try and banish the demon that walks like a man. It's worth mentioning that the main developer credited for this game is Eurocom, who were EA's go-to guys for James Bond licensed games, including the pretty good GoldenEye remake. This was the work of a talented studio, so why is everything so slapdash? At least the final stage of Book 6 takes a little finesse and precision to catch spells so the minigame feels a little fresh.
You're the Half-Blood Prince.
Yes, as you can tell by my face, I am a half-blood, half-human, and half-donkey's asshole. Finally, we're up to Year 7, the grand finale, chock full of massive set pieces from the first movie alone. There's the harrowing flying chase from the Dursleys, the raid on the wedding, sneaking into and breaking out of the Ministry, Ron's hallucination battle with the Horcrux, the raid on Lovegood's house and the chase that follows, and the chilling, tense showdown at Malfoy Manor. 0 of those sequences are in the game. There is one sequence pulled from Deathly Hallows Part 1, and it's the fight in the cafe. A brief incidental fight scene with 2 no-name bad guys. How you blow a softball like that just boggles my mind. This cafe fight is the worst level in the game by a mile, by the way. You have to duel 2 dudes at once, only you can't dodge or cast shields anymore, only duck behind cover, and both enemies spend almost the entire fight casting mirror force to where you can't hit them and your shots fly back at you. The camera angle makes it friggin' hard to tell when you need to take cover because it's just a bunch of lights stacked on top of each other. You can call Hermione for help to draw fire. Ron, I guess, is just gone in this level. But it barely does anything. In duels, you can also switch between spells like different weapons, but Incendio and Expelliarmus are just buffed versions of Stupefy that do the same thing. And while Immobilis and Levicorpus will stun an enemy, they also make the game's detection for shooting turn to shit. I'd almost bet money that the game purposefully blocks you from shooting after landing one of the stun spells, so changing weapons does virtually nothing. Incendio is the fire spell, by the way. Harry Potter, beloved children's icon and hero, has taken to burning people alive. I don't even know how I finally beat this level. The guy on the left just died at one point and I didn't even notice. Next, they adapt the beginning of Deathly Hallows Part 2, the heist at Gringotts. No, they don't adapt the vault where the heroes are trapped having to avoid replicating gold, or the part where they bust out by hijacking a big-ass dragon. They don't do the cool parts. They adapt the cart ride, because apparently the premier wizard bank is such a rundown shithole that customers will die unless they lean into every turn and jump or duck tons of hazards. This level is long, with 5 hits and no checkpoints, and a programming oversight is going to suck those lives out before you know it. See, you can duck and lean the cart at the same time, and if the cart is leaning when you duck under a hazard, you still take damage! So you have to be insanely careful when ducking, or else you die anyway! They skip over most of the Hogwarts battle, of course. They adapt the bridge exploding, which is just more dodging. They adapt fighting Nagini the giant snake, which is just more dodging. Snape isn't even mentioned, despite being one of the central characters of this movie. And the final battle with Voldemort is just another copy-pasted duel, identical to the dozen or so others that you fought to get here. Although it is kind of a neat touch that both times you duel Voldemort in the story, it ends with Voldy pushing the beam struggle back automatically, but the second match, every time he pushes it, he's moaning like he's crapping out his own intestines. It's a neat way to show in gameplay how much weaker he is now. At last, Voldemort dies, and this face is the last thing that he sees. Talk about adding insult to injury. And by the way, 2.5 hours to beat the entire game, including the levels that I had to replay. This game is shorter than a good chunk of the movies. Friggin' ridiculous. The game has a small chunk of extras to extend its length or encourage replay value. Beating the story unlocks challenges where you pretty much replay levels with a time limit or a score cap. There's a remedial math game thrown in, and depressingly, it's one of the freshest ideas in this entire game. My favorite challenge is the final on casual difficulty because you have to land a bunch of hits on Malfoy in a duel, and if you land a single stunning spell, you can slap the bitch out of him and blow out the score cap in about 2 seconds. The one time my shots worked after landing a stun, which I think I reflected his own back at him, so my theory still holds! There's also a section for extra classes, which mostly just means 10, yes, 10 friggin' potions minigames that all play exactly the damn same. What does Snape teach you to brew, anyway?
Oculus potion has the power to restore the drinker's sight.
To test the eyesight potion, I have brought in an AI tech bro who thinks that this is passable movie footage.
Love potion.
So, roofies.
The elixir to induce euphoria.
So, LSD.
The draught of living death. It is a powerful sleeping potion.
So, chloroform.
Is a potion that calms anxiety and soothes agitation.
So, weed. Class, I've been informed that the Muggles have discovered a plant known as marijuana, which renders this potion obsolete. Seriously, Snape's teaching all the kids to be drug dealers and he's supposed to be one of the heroes? I get the feeling that there's a very dark adult satire of Harry Potter just waiting to happen here. And don't worry, I couldn't brew the chloroform. It's the final stage, and the timers are so ungodly tight, and the game can barely read the beam-crushing gesture for some reason. There are 4 extra dueling opponents, in case you're not fully sick of the mechanic yet, and by the 3rd I could barely damage the enemies anymore. See, what I observed, and what the game never tells you, is that your shield disintegrates after taking a few hits. So even if you have the split-second reaction time to cast shields, certain volleys of attacks are just unblockable, while the AI can just decide that it's immune to everything anytime that it wants. It sucks. And there are a few dodging stages, which are just the Whomping Willow level with no health bar. One-hit deaths and the branches come really quickly. Screw this! I seriously have no idea why there are no Quidditch games unless you're playing multiplayer. Again, I don't know how you miss balls this soft. You can unlock avatars of certain characters for free play. You know, in case Oliver Wood, the Quidditch captain who's barely in the first book and I think never turns up again, is your all-time favorite character and you want to use him all game. Oh hey, I can play as Batman! Except I'd much rather experiment with the custom picture avatars, of which they only let you keep 1 per save file. Oh hey, I got the Sonic the Hedgehog DLC. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. I've got a Halloween decoration skeleton in the closet. I need to see what happens there. Oh, sweet God. Looks like my face melted down to the bone and somehow I did not die. It's like Skeletor, the college years. Oh, and the game's box advertises that it has 2-player co-op. It has 1 co-op dueling game, and you unlock it in year 7. Joy. The main replayability comes from the advanced difficulty, which really kicks in at year 2. The pixie stage zooms out so there's more ground to cover, which ironically makes it much easier to avoid bombs. The mandrake potting just adds in extra slugs, the dueling club has better AI, and the basilisk moves much faster and only lets you take 3 hits. But I hit my screw this I'm out point at the Whomping Willow, where you have to jump and duck a lot of branches, and the Kinect just started failing to read so many of my jumps that the game became unwinnable. I'm calling it there because I'm starting to notice a trend here. It keeps feeling like if you play the game on any kind of challenging or heightened mode, it pushes the game, or the Kinect, or both, past their limits. Between a bullcrap dueling system and the Kinect being the Kinect, trying to play any deeper into this thing is only going to get you frustration. And that's a real shame because on casual difficulty, Miles and I were kind of impressed. We both agreed that this is probably the best Kinect game that I own, if only due to the fact that, at least on casual, the motion detection is mostly 1-to-1 accurate. The inputs don't lag like in Wipeout or Blackwater. The game doesn't confuse inputs like Kinect Star Wars. It doesn't constantly miss inputs like Fighters Uncaged. It's not overly picky on accepting inputs like Dance Central. And the controls feel way more precise than Kinect Adventures. And I don't really count Just Dance because it's basically just a series of workout videos that passively scores you. The problem with Harry Potter Kinect is just sheer lack of ambition. Even for what the game is, a stack of motion control minigames based on the films, they skip well over half the movie's major set pieces and don't even try to tell any story. And the games that are present quickly feel samey and recycled. I think it all comes back to what I said at the beginning. Harry Potter was done, and the Kinect was on its last legs. Just push something out before the wells dry up. But on the bright side, it still makes more sense than the Fantastic Beasts movies. That's something.
Not good enough. Stay behind after class. We'll need to arrange your detention.